Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well. You're looking absolutely amazing, may I add? And we're going to get straight into the meat and potatoes. As I think what we can all agree on is that despite how we feel, the Jay Slater case is coming to an end. It is coming to an end, and there's lots of questions, there's lots of things that many of us who have followed the case think and feel about it, and we're going to talk about some of them in a second. But unless the family decides over the next few days, weeks, whatever, or the inquest brings anything up, I think this probably is just a box-ticking exercise at this stage. But who knows? Something could happen. But as it stands at the moment, I believe this is going to come to its natural conclusion. But a lot of you have reached out. You've spoken about multiple things, right? We've spoken about the funeral, and people have said that there was potentially dealing going on at the funeral. I don't know how I feel about that. But, look, what I do know is that there's things around this case that simply just don't make sense. Just don't make sense whatsoever. And that's what we're going to talk about in this, right? We're going to go over this quickly, because I think that yes, it's going to come to a natural conclusion, but I think that the room is split. The room is split in the sense that there's going to be some that feel that this was just a case of misadventure, and Jay simply ended up walking. He thought it was a good idea, whatever. Perhaps he wasn't completely compos mentis, and that's what happened. And then there's going to be some people who do really think about the things. They think about, like I said before, remember, the bigger picture without all of the things removed, and they're going to think to themselves, hold on a second, something don't sit right. But this is Mark Williams Thomas. Now, Mark Williams Thomas, in my personal opinion, like I said, that he was working close to the family and just getting information, getting stuff and sharing it with the family, sharing it with police where necessary or appropriate to do so. But the vast majority of a lot of the big stories that came out that offered the intrigue in this case came from Mark Williams Thomas, 100%. And when you think that Mark Williams Thomas is not only advertising himself as working alongside the family, but also being at ground zero and having access to the people and places that none of us did, he perpetuated a lot of the things that would resonate with many of us and feel that something nefarious had happened to Jay. But there were some statements that were made that, again, just simply don't make sense. Let's see if you can pick them out. So former detective Mark Williams Thomas had been helping Jay's family in the search for their son, and now he's explained why the area the teen's remains were found was particularly perilous. Now, what this is going to go on to say is basically that the area is, even though there's pathways, it's like if you take the wrong step, if you go off the beaten track, so to speak, or you lose your foot and then you could fall. My concern with this, and what never made sense, is Jay was found, apparently, in an inaccessible area. So I thought to myself, well, how the fuck did you even find him then? If he was in a place that wasn't accessible, it was inaccessible, how did you even know to look there in the first place? How did you even know? And not to mention that there's still confusion over when Jay was actually found, with people apparently local stating that Jay was found the day before they are claiming that he was found. And what we do know is around the extraction of Jay's body from that area, that the family were kept in the dark about that. And even the fingerprint, and that many of us have had an issue with, even though I think that we can conclude that it's possible, it is something that can be done, and we certainly don't know the state which his body was in. We do know that it was bad enough that they would suggest to the family that you shouldn't see your son. Now, we don't know if that was the case and they didn't see him, and in effect, that the only way that he has been, identified is via Spanish authorities, and that wasn't then concluded over in the UK. I can only hope that it was, and I'm guessing that it was. But it's always bugged me that they found him, and they happened to find it was the timing of it as well. Like, you've got another search group that are pulled in, right? This search team comes in that are requested by the family, and they are going to start searching. And lo and behold, just as they're about to start, you have the Guardia Civil finding him. And that was off the back end of claiming that they're not going to search, or the search is over, and then going on to claim that they did that to stop people interfering with the search and potentially putting themselves at risk. Now, is there any truth to that? There could be, but it just seems really odd to me. Seems absolutely strange that they would literally make that claim. We're going to stop searching, tell the family and everyone that we're going to stop searching, but continue to search. And I think to myself, well, why did you do that? And it's like to turn around and say that the last people to see Jay Slater alive, they're irrelevant to the investigation. Well, they're only irrelevant to the investigation if you've got a preconceived notion of what happened, or at least you are going to voice that this is how this concluded, and these people don't factor into that. Because at the point where you have not found Jay yet, how can you say that people who were some of the last people to see him are irrelevant? That doesn't make sense to me, and I have spoken about it previously. So it says, early in the search for the missing son, Jay Slater's family were joined in Tenerife by former police detective Mark Williams Thomas, as local authorities' efforts to locate him proved unsuccessful. In the days, weeks that followed, he pursued several leads on the island and became a steadfast source of support for Jay's parents. Steadfast source of support, again, the aforementioned rumour mills were started by Mark Williams Thomas. So you have to ask the question, was Mark Williams Thomas lying? Was someone potentially misleading him? And in his professional world then, if you want to go down the route and say Mark Williams Thomas is an ex-cop and he should know better, how was he not able to distinguish or determine what was right, what was wrong, what should be put out into the public domain, and what should have been kept hidden? Why would you get these rumours, push them out to the media, push them out via social media, and feed the fire, if you know, because that's what it was. This story caught fire, and it caught fire and captured the attention it did because of the stories that were perpetuated by Mark Williams Thomas. And that doesn't make sense to me, that when it's now over with, we're just going to simply turn around and say, well, you don't need to worry about any of that anymore. Just forget about it. Just forget about it. While you're still getting people attacking social media for the things that they were talking about, when ultimately they were talking about things that were being told by the people that were doing the fucking searching. It doesn't make sense, and no one seems to, with any clout, or anybody around his family or the friends even, aren't coming out and saying, well, hold on a second, you guys were the ones that said it. The people who were right there, knee deep in it, were the people who were saying the things that channels like mine had spoken about. But yet we're the problematic ones. Anyway, I digress. So in the days, weeks that followed, he pursued several leads. Right. On Monday, in a heartbreaking development, Civil Guard officers have announced the discovery of human remains near Masca, which they feared to belong to the missing teenager. So again, this is an older article. We're going back here on purpose. Mr. Mark Williams Thomas, who has previously been involved in a number of high-profile missing persons cases, has been fucking just as helpful in them. But he's been involved in them. Shares his personal account of the past 4 weeks with Jay's family. It explains the perilous nature of the area where the body was found. 4 weeks to the day after Jay went missing, and his family never given up hope and would find him alive. It was late morning on Monday, and Jay's parents were asked to attend police station for an update. They attended hoping for a positive update. What they learned was every parent's nightmare. Human remains had been found, and they fitted the description of Jay, his clothes and personal belongings being found with him. Strange to say that, because obviously they're going to be found with him. Why wouldn't they be found with him? Some of these statements around this also don't make sense. Like Ayub Qasim saying he came alive, he left alive. In what world does that statement not ring alarm bells with people? You know, I just can't work it out. To compound the devastating news even further, he was found at a pretty inaccessible place, not far from the spot where Jay had sent his location to two friends shortly before 9 a.m., 4 weeks earlier to the day. Which we hear it was about 20 minutes away from where his phone last pinged. Which, on the grander schemes of things, if the area is inaccessible, then there must have been a reason for them searching in that particular spot. And the issue that I have is people want to try and say that there's no chance of there being nefarious activity surrounding this because of the inaccessibility of the area which it was found. But what they're failing to recognise is the area preceding that Jay would have had to have got to wasn't inaccessible. So when you pair that with the fact that, in my personal opinion, it's almost like this specific area was somewhere that was potentially the best place if you wanted to get rid of someone and thinking that they wouldn't be found. Why would Jay have gone to an area, got to a point where you think, that's a good idea? And I've said this before, and I'm repeating myself because I still can't work it out. I still can't work out what would stop a person from thinking, I can't go that way anymore. I've got to go back the other way. Why carry on going and then end up in an inaccessible area? Because to me, a head injury, which has always been the specific element to his death, a head injury consistent with a fall from height. Well, what do they mean by that? A head injury. Someone could have smacked him over the head with a rock and shoved him off of the ravine top and down into the ravine, hoping that where he fell he wouldn't be found. And even if he was found, by the time he was found, it just concludes out this way. That's just how I feel about it. It just doesn't make sense to me. Look, 20 minutes walk from the pin drop location. The terrain is rough and hazardous, and having now seen a video of the search team on Monday morning and that the helicopter was in the same area on the Sunday afternoon where the body was recovered, it is clear to see how treacherous and dangerous it is. It is a slip or loss of footing would prove fatal. Now, not being funny, but I don't think Jay was that much of an idiot. He obviously had a past. He had a checkered past. But are we truly saying that Jay was so much of a fucking idiot that he couldn't distinguish between safe and unsafe? And this brings back to this biggest question of all. Was Jay Slater in his right mind when he left the Airbnb? Because I'll tell you what else doesn't make sense. Like they're saying he didn't want to, he was going to go on this 11-hour walk. He didn't want to wait for a lift, which tells me, right, hold on a second, he really didn't want to take a lift. Why didn't he want to take a lift? He either wasn't fucking offered one, or he was told to fuck off, or there was some reason he wouldn't want a lift, and instead he was willing to take an 11-hour walk. Now, not being funny, but if I've got an 11-hour walk ahead of me and someone offers me a lift, I'm taking the lift, even if I have to wait 3 or 4 hours for the lift. That is still better than an 11-hour walk. And then you've got the bus situation, which there's still some confusion over the bus every 10 minutes, or the bus was coming at 10 a.m. and this was, about an hour and a half before that. So he could have waited for a bus. Are we saying that he didn't have any money on him? But then he wanted food, he wanted scran. He went to the shop apparently, but he then asked for a cigarette that we saw in the picture. Well, if he went to the shop and bought a drink, why didn't he buy cigarettes? It's all these little things that just they don't make sense to me. They're things that bother me. But why did Jay leave the Airbnb? Why did he leave it? Why didn't he take a lift? Why didn't he get the bus? Why didn't he have money? Why wasn't he phone charged? And why did he not turn round and think this is not safe? Let me know down below, and I'll catch you all in the next one.